Welcome back to another creepy tale with the collective. Tonight we're going to be listening to Theater Kids Haunted House by Salami Mommy on Reddit's No Sleep. I went to school in a rural area more than 10 years ago. I was a kid who played an orchestra and took art classes. I always wanted to take a theater class, but it seemed like I couldn't ever get it crunched into my class schedules. Just like our arts program, they didn't have a good budget. They seemed to always have more than enough for our school's football and baseball team, which always did excellent. But our school had such a beautiful theater. It was connected to the classroom and had a decent-sized stage. It was near Halloween, and somehow the teacher got it approved to make a small haunted house get-up with the theater kids being employees. Tickets were only a few bucks, and all proceeds would fund the theater program. It was going to be successful. It gave kids a chance to get out of class for a good 10 minutes or so, which many desperately would do anything for. They'd have a kid come classroom to classroom, and those who wanted to enter could follow them. I became excited when one knocked on the door during my art class. A handful of us followed the kid who wasn't dressed up to the drama classroom. The teacher sat at a table and collected money. She told us a few rules and pointers. Don't touch the actors. The actors won't touch you. Stay in the roped area. Failure to do so will result in a trip to the principal's office. I handed over my $3 and walked towards the entrance. The door was held by a kid wearing a black hooded robe and had on some of those stitches next to his mouth you could get at a Halloween store. He had black face paint painted around his eyes. Good luck, he snickered. It felt cheesy. They had ropes lined up, tied to traffic cones as a pathway. The things I seen were pretty decent, but mostly cliche. I seen a handful of kids getting scared though. The stage had a closet area next to it with wardrobe, which explained some of the things seen. It also had an audience area in front of the stage where all the chairs were stacked away. The closet area had bars in front where someone had monster makeup on and they were hollering and doing a cheesy laugh. They were wearing their school clothes too. They had the room pretty dark and had some fog machines. Some of the things I was able to see were the girls acting in distress and asking for help. Some people pretending to be psych patients. Some would run towards the rope and scream. They had tombstones in some areas that were made from styrofoam. Creepy music was playing from the PA system. Some other guests walking through would crack jokes and make fun of the actors. I just kept to myself and took in the atmosphere. Obviously, it had to be pretty tame since it was in school, no fake blood or pretend weapons. What really threw me off, though, was when I looked up at the ceiling. There was an area where some lights were very dimmed and looked like a dummy was hanging by a rope. There was no way the school would have approved that. I went through the rest of the haunt and back to the classroom. Another student held out a bucket full of Halloween candy and thanked those who came and supported the theater program. The teacher asked a couple students what they thought, and she got some mixed answers. It was great. Thanks for doing this. It wasn't scary. It was cheesy. She asked me, and I told her I enjoyed it, but I was curious how they were able to hang up a dummy or a prop in the ceiling. She looked at me as if I had said something stupid. She asked me what I was talking about, and I explained it once more. She walked in the theater and demanded everyone leave for the moment. I followed behind and she turned on the lights once the room was clear. She let out a horrifying scream that would never leave my memory. She pulled out her phone and called 911 and told me to go grab the principal. I sprinted to the office and told them what happened, and they ran into the theater. EMTs, firefighters, police swarmed the school and classes were canceled the rest of the week. They had to use a cherry picker to pull that kid down. His name was Wesley. He was part of the class. The investigation team determined it wasn't a suicide. He was murdered. Police interviewed the whole theater class. They interviewed me as well, to which I explained what I had seen. The cameras only were showing where he walked into the classroom and never came out. They assumed it had to either have been one of the theater students or the teacher. They ruled out it being someone who walked through because of the timing. Yet he didn't come into class super early either. They never truly discovered who did it. Many of the kids got pulled out by their parents. Mrs. Mack was fired and sued. though she won. The theater program was shut down for several years. The reason I'm writing about this is because I recently became the orchestra teacher at this school. I'd heard rumors every once in a blue moon from another student that they claimed to have seen a ghost, and even a teacher mentioned it once in the lounge. I always pushed the idea of it away, but recently I had to borrow a couple of extra chairs from the theater room, and told the teacher I'd bring them back at the end of the day. Once school let out and I finished closing up my area, I began carrying the chairs to the theater. When I opened the door, I noticed the room was freezing compared to what it was before. I stacked the chairs up and heard a noise. It was coming from the top and sounded like a rope getting tight. It was Wesley. He looked transparent and was smiling at me. I let out a scream, and he let one back, and that was horrifying. I ran to the exit door and tripped on my way out. Another teacher saw me on the ground and came to my aid. I told her I had seen something in there. She looked in and said she saw nothing. I'm going to talk to the theater teacher and see if there's some way I can talk with Wesley. I feel so scared, but I'll keep you updated.